Good morning, everyone, and welcome into the Monday morning scramble, but more like our therapy session this morning with you all. Lisa Matthews, Kyle Odegard, Jody Jackson, Zach Galia here with you to discuss the disappointing Cardinals loss to the Rams yesterday, 34-7. And guys, let's just get right into the main dish because there wasn't much meat there. We don't have a lot to talk about as far as plays, but just right off the bat, just no energy, just you would think they'd come out refreshed, rejuvenated, obviously after the bye week, and it was the complete opposite.
Yeah, it just felt like coming out of the bye, and I think everyone was excited to see this team back at home. You know, you have a string of 3 home games, and just from the get-go, they just couldn't do anything. And I wasn't really surprised, I'm sorry to say, that defensively they weren't able to stop the Rams. That didn't surprise me, but I was surprised that the offense wasn't able to create. And they have been the spark. I mean, guys, in games when this team hasn't gotten off to a great start and then that offense gets rolling, it just never got rolling. And you hope it's just an anomaly because there are 4 games left, and these are teams that do have something to play for. Mm-hmm. And so you just hope that they get it going here. And, you know, that's from what we've seen in the first 11, you would think, okay, they had a bad one. You can't really afford a bad one in the NFL. There's only 16 games, but you hope that was it.
Yeah, and I know naturally people thought of last year and all the blowout losses, and this game certainly resembled something like that. The offense couldn't do anything, the defense was not able to stop anything, but it was the first time this year something like that happened. And every single game previously, they had been within 10 points in the second half of every team. So I agree with you. Because we've seen enough, it does feel like an anomaly to me. If things start really snowballing down the stretch and you see more of these games, then I think you can get worried. But seeing as how is 1 of 12 right now, I feel like you can toss it out and focus on the bigger picture of the offense, the way it's played prior. And you just hope the Rams didn't figure something out against this Cardinals offense.
I mean, they have year after year since Sean McVay has. I mean, I just thought it would be different, obviously. I was so excited for this matchup, thinking about Cliff Kingsbury's first time going up against Sean McVay and just these 2 prolific offenses going head-to-head. And then all week it was like, okay, let's look at these final 5 games as a new season, a fresh start, and that's not the way you want to start things off here.
Well, and I mean, Kyler said that he doesn't enjoy bye weeks, and I mean, at this point, I don't think I do either anymore. But
I did.
I mean, the road's not going to get any easier either. I mean, Steelers, the Browns, Seahawks, and then the Rams again. So, I mean, just like we keep talking, I hope it's an anomaly because we got to get the ship turned back around pretty quickly.
Feed us some of those stats you had.
Some stats.
We have today.
Well, Budda Baker had 12 total tackles, which was pretty solid. But when you're the last line of defense, that's kind of where you stand. But nothing really got going. Offense. I mean, you guys watched the game as well. It's the ground game. We really didn't get anything going. But with the statistics, Larry was 6 catches for 56 yards. Farrell Cooper was 4 for 26, Christian Kirk was 3 for 23, and then it kind of dwindled from there. So definitely hard to put up points when you don't have, the receptions, the passing yards, the rushing yards. It was just kind of a total kind of
and
check.
Usually on the show we do rise and shine players of the game. I mean, I think we just can't pick one at this point. And no one truly woke up at any point of the game. You just mentioned Christian Kirk, a guy that you're just so used to getting the touches. He didn't have his first catch until the 4th quarter. I believe it was like 11 minutes and 44 seconds left to go, you're telling me? So it just seemed like nothing could get going for them offensively. And again, it was one of those, instances for me, having watched this team week after week, and you're just waiting for that moment. Okay, things are going to turn around. I even remember tweeting something like, all right, is this the turning point? And just never got to that point.
Yeah, I mean, as bad as it was, people did remember the way they turned it on against Detroit in that opener and had the great comeback. So, like you said, Lisa, people were waiting and wondering if this offense was going to click. And because it had done so well previously in the last 5-6 games, to me, the bigger deal is the way the defense played, the pass defense again. Jared Goff just, sliced them up play after play, and that's a big deal because it's happened week after week after week. We talk about anomaly, and the offensive struggles were the anomaly, but this has been the pass defense's issues every single week. And at this point, I mean, Cliff Kingsbury said, I understand the questions. I don't have an answer for you. Whatever I say is going to fall on deaf ears. And I appreciated that. He's not trying to make excuses. He realizes it's not good enough. And they have to figure something out.
I think what bothered me was Jordan Hicks after the game saying, look, we practiced 95% of the stuff the Rams were throwing at them on defense, and they weren't executing, and the communication wasn't good. And, I know Vance Joseph has taken on a lot of criticism, but he is a good coach. He has a track record as a good defensive coach. But for whatever reason, and we know obviously personnel-wise, you've got some real young players out there, you've got some veterans that aren't playing up to where they need to be, and I'm loath to hang it on Vance Joseph. I mean, I don't know. I mean, and unfortunately coaches they're tied to the way their players play.
Yeah.
So, but what we saw yesterday, it's really hard to explain that. And you could see Jordan really kind of looking for answers himself on, we practice these things. I'm not sure why guys were running free and slicing through the defense.
Yeah, and you have a young team, obviously. You have some misfortunes that happened before the season, but you need playmakers to make plays. And Vance Joseph can't do that himself. He can't go out there and do that. He can drop the scheme and the game plan before, facing the opponent, but he can't be the playmaker. He has to rely on the guys to do so, and we haven't seen that, unfortunately, so far. I mean, Jared Goff, it was his first thrown touchdown since October. And the offense had over 549 total yards. So
and they let off the gas at the end. That was practically 3 quarters.
Oh yeah. I think they were trending for over 700 yards in the first quarter.
I think though in the offseason you can fix this defense hopefully fairly quickly. I think, and that's the hope, right? I mean,
and that's why I feel. Yeah, I mean, you're going to have salary cap space, and you're going to be able to add talent, and you're going to have draft picks. So the defense can look different next year, but I feel like you wanted to have more progress as the season went on. When you showed that you were one of the worst pass defenses halfway through the season, if you could get up to 23 or 20 overall, you didn't have to be a great pass defense, but just try to show some progress, and we haven't seen it yet. So to me, that's the biggest issue, is not showing any week-to-week improvement at this point. And that's you have 4 games left, and maybe they can do it. You guys have mentioned the young players on the team and the miscommunications, and that stuff definitely needs to be ironed out.
Yeah, I think what bites for me in this game is just the disappointment to see the lack of fire and execution in this team. Coming off a bye, you looked at this game against a Rams team who got punched in the mouth on Monday Night Football. They had a short week. And they came ready, and they didn't want to get embarrassed once again, obviously, and they just played well on all levels, and the Cardinals didn't. And it was tough to see that they didn't have that match, at least the same execution or fire to just show up in this game. Again, hoping that it is something that when you look at this 2019 season, this is an outlier. It then becomes a problem if we look at these final 5 games and we see more of this type of play and blowouts like this. But hopefully, we've seen this team in a season where it's based off just progression week to week. We're not, counting the wins and relying on the wins, obviously. We just want to see progress, and we've seen that. So this is what makes this game so disappointing in my opinion.
And it's tough because, again, you want to win more games than you did last year because there has been progress. So that's the hard part, and I think it hurt that 3 of those 4 losses before the bye, if they had gotten one of them, maybe it shouldn't affect it. I agree. And I'm not making excuses. It shouldn't affect, this team should have been fired up. It shouldn't have been mattered what the record is. It is kind of a late bye too. And so when you are 3-7-1 and you're kind of but I like the way Kingsbury put it as a new season, and you hopefully can look at it that way. And I just didn't sense that came through yesterday for sure.
Yeah.
But now it's the 4th quarter of the season, right? So
right. Let's change the narrative every time.
Because we all have in our life something where you have to. How do you change that lens for yourself, right? How do you open a new window, and if things aren't good, and just start new? And you got to do it, especially with these home games. The fan base has been more excited this season about what's going on, but now if these last 2 don't go well, you lose a little bit of that credibility, not credibility, but equity, I guess. So.
Yeah, and I think this one hurt a little bit more too, just because of the trajectory of how the season has gone. Every week it seems to be a little bit more hope, a little bit more promise, a little bit more growth, and then it just kind of all came to a screeching halt, this week. And I think that's more of the pain, and probably even from the fan side as well.
As bad as this game was, you see it in the NFL every week where a team that you think is going to win or be competitive gets blown out, and and when it's your team, you feel like the sky is falling, and all the progress, like you said, is gone. and then they'll come back and play like they have most of the season. So yes, it was a very bad game, but it still wouldn't surprise me to see Kyler Murray come out against the Steelers and have a good game, and for them to win that game and get right back on track. So we'll see what happens in these last 4, but the fact when you look at all the games in total, like we've mentioned, the progress we've seen,
Right.
I don't think we should just focus on this one poor game, because there has been enough progress to still be excited about the trajectory.
Yeah, there is a bright side here, right? You just
It's a holiday season. We got to get festive
Yeah,
here.
let's all name positives, right? Because we spent the last, 15 minutes. Now let's bring home the bacon here. Obviously, you just talked about just kind of turning the page and just hoping to see this Cardinals team bounce back again. This can be an outlier for them. This can be something that is not the norm and what we're used to seeing. And a lot of people compare this to 2018 season. This is not the case. You know, there's been a lot of positive vibes this season just with the direction of this team offensively, how they're trending. So the fact that, you know, defense wasn't doing well, offense, it just was something that is a rarity. And so fans should be excited for what's to come, hopefully, in these last final 4 games, what the Cardinals can prove and show to close out this season.
Yeah, I mean, the O-line has been pretty good all year, and yet this was a bad game. And Kyler, you saw him throw balls that he hasn't thrown all season long. So, I mean, again, those are things that you hope just one game doesn't sort of carry over to this next one. I don't expect that at all. I just feel like Kyler Murray, that's not his style. And you know, we haven't seen much. Like the first half of Detroit looked a lot like this game. Only problem with this one was it continued. I would say, hey, they did get it going in the 4th, but I think the Rams took their foot off the gas.
Yes.
So I don't know how excited you want to get about, you know, a couple of series there. So,
but it was good to see them still push through
I
and
thought
work
we were
through
getting
that.
positive here, Joe.
I know, I was trying, you know. I'm in the holiday spirit and all.
All right, Zach, give us a positive.
Elf on the Shelf came,
My,
I don't know.
my
Yeah.
positive would be I think we broke the record for the use of the word anomaly in a show, because I don't know that I've heard that word this many times ever in my life. So I think that's a plus for today. But you know, it definitely a big matchup coming next week with Pittsburgh, and I mean, you've no idea kind of where the quarterback situation is at the time. You know, you could see Mason Rudolph, or you could see, you know, the practice squad call up at quarterback. So, you know, this would definitely be a time where the defense comes together and can kind of, you know, gel and make that next step, hopefully.
Give
And
us
one-
all the insights, Zach.
Yeah,
You're
that's all
former
I got.
Steeler over here.
Quarterback I'm used to hasn't played all season.
True.
So.
Right.
One good thing I think for Kyler Murray is we've seen teams throw different defenses at him, and he's been able to adjust after seeing it. And he admitted that the Rams really jumped on the Cardinals' quick game stuff and were pushing up, and they had the interior pressure. So it might have been a little different look than he has seen this year. And we've seen Cliff Kingsbury adapt. We've seen Kyler Murray be a quick study. So I think this could be a learning experience for him, and realize, okay, when a defense has this sort of plan against me, this is how we combat that. And we'll see if they do, but earlier in the season, teams were playing zone and they started picking that apart. So it's another look that Wade Phillips did a nice job of scheming against Kyler Murray, and we'll see how they react, and we'll see if the Steelers pick up on stuff like that.
Yeah, which is part of the reason, obviously, Kingsbury left Kyler in the game, because, hey, he's still young. I want him to be put in these situations and see these different coverages. So, I mean, I had no problem
And I
with
think
that.
if his hamstring was an issue, he would.
Yeah.
Maybe they would have pulled. But I don't think it was an issue. I know a lot of people kind of question that. I didn't mention it too much yesterday during the post game, because I really didn't think it.
Well,
it
we
was
saw
an
his
issue.
15-yard
He looked pretty
touchdown.
quick.
He looked pretty quick and speedy, and not hurting his hammy on that one
Exactly.
at all. All right, everyone. Well, thank you so much for joining us during this therapy session. We hope you have a beautiful rest of your week. We'll see you next time.